major accomplishment has been to restore people's confidence that the AG's office is there, willing to take on the problems to improve people's lives, help them to afford their lives and live with dignity, safety, and respect. So obviously, we have increased our advocacy around economic justice. We, established a wage theft unit. We are doing more in the antitrust area. We've reactivated our housing area practice and have done a lot on that. We've also done some important things on criminal justice. Everybody knows that we did the shelving case, but we also have a statewide expungement program, and we also have a conviction integrity unit, which is examining credible claims of innocence so that we can make sure that our system is just and fair and has respect of everybody. Well, there are people who only have their own rulership as a priority. They don't care about democratic process. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about human rights. These people, usually in the United States, we read about them. Abroad, sometimes we think of human rights violations as something that happened across an ocean or something like that. But the truth is that is exactly what was happening here. The president is an authoritarian, is a person who believed that might makes right, and that a free and fair election is nothing he had any interest in. And he was going to grab it and take it because he wanted it. And that's why he admires people like Putin and authoritarian leaders, because that's really what he is. It was just the institutions of the country and the courage of leaders and the people who stood up and didn't let him do it. But the bottom line is what happened on January 6th should remind us that whatever infirmities American democracy has, we will miss it if we let somebody like Trump snatch it away, and they are trying. So we've got to stand up, we've got to defend, we've got to protect, we've got to assert, and we've got to show courage and commitment to make sure our country continues to advance towards a more just, more inclusive society. For 16 years, I was not in public service. I got out of law school when I was 25, and I didn't take any public office till I was about 39 years old. And there was a time when I didn't like or trust any politicians. But it became clear to me that if I was fighting for a fair criminal justice system, if I was fighting for an environmental justice, if I was anything I believed in and wanted to spend time working towards, you needed a government that was responsive and wanted those things too. So, I remember one time I was organizing with some friends around police accountability, around a horrific event that happened in the early 1990s. And it became clear to me that in order to get that done, I needed 7 votes on the city council. You think you don't need politicians? Well, if you want them to pass something that changes the law, you do. And so I got involved on that end of it. But I'm one who came to understand that who's in office matters. And I will tell you this, that I don't believe that politicians are the most important thing. Martin Luther King never held any elective office, but he always was involved in public service. I think that they need to know that the Attorney General is going to confront the most powerful interests, the most privileged interests on behalf of the general public. They need to know that we neither fear nor favor anyone. What our North Star is justice. And they need us to get involved in helping solving real problems. And if people, for example, in rural Minnesota, feel that they don't have any hospital access except for 2-3 hours away, they want to know whether the AG is going to get involved and try to help them get some solutions. And if the challenge is our some landlords being abusive to tenants, they want to know whether there's going to be somebody's going to step up and do something about it. Will the Attorney General be a consistent advocate for ordinary people, for their rights and for their economic justice? So, for example, I think that one of the things that we know is coming up is a woman's right to choose her own family decisions. Will the AG be there, or will the AG say you're on your own? Will the AG be for rights, or will the AG be against rights? Now, there's a lot of folks who are raising this issue of CRT. Well, will the AG be on the side of truth and equal opportunity in education, or some standardized version which doesn't tell the full story? I mean, these are the questions that people want to know about. So they can expect me to be an advocate for patients, an advocate for public safety, an advocate for the rights and civil rights of everyone, advocate for equal opportunity in education, and of course, public health. We'll be there to stand up for public health, and we'll be there to make sure that we don't spread COVID, and that we do all we can to observe people's rights and their freedoms, but also to control a public health menace as well. As much as I would like to say the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, if you only give me one, I'd have to say the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We need to secure the vote. The people have got to be able to make decisions about their own governance. After that, I think I would support the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. If you look at the two basic features of any democratic society, one is that people get to select their leaders, and the other is that people be free from arbitrary violence from the state. We need both of these things to live in a free democratic society. And it's also nice if we can read the press can be free, we can get information unfiltered. It's also nice if we can redress grievances. And it's also nice if we can do a whole lot of other things, have a fair trial. These things are critical. But I'd have to start with the vote, brother. I'd have to start with the vote and then move on to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. My most memorable, most important moment wasn't what I would call a favorite moment. It was why I do this. It was a lady who I met maybe 4.5 years ago, and she told me a story. She said, "Look, Keith, my son, my beloved son, aged off of Obamacare, and he was 26 years old. He was working in the restaurant business. He was thinking about starting his own restaurant. But he was a type 1 diabetic. And he didn't want to ask me for money because he was trying to be on his own. And he started rationing his insulin. And his body went into something called ketoacidosis, meaning that, his blood started he started to die, just to be real simple about it. And he got cloudy-headed. He couldn't think right. This is what happens when you don't have your insulin, and he did die. So she said, my son basically died because he couldn't afford his insulin. Why can't he afford the insulin when the people who invented insulin, they sold the patent to University of Toronto for $1. $1. Jonas Salk, who came up with the polio vaccine, he said, why would I? He said, patent it? That's like patenting the wind. That's what Jonas Salk said about patenting the polio virus. But the people who came up with insulin, they sold it to the patent to University of Toronto for $1. You can, if you can get insulin for 10% of what you pay here in the United States. And yet they big giant monopolies say, well, we cornered the market. What you pay? You want to live, you pay. You want to live, you pay. If you don't have the money, good luck for you. And I listened to that lady, and her name is Nicole Holt Smith. And I worked with her to pass a piece of legislation, and she passed it, and we passed it. And then the big pharmaceutical companies attacked it and said it was unconstitutional. And I was so proud to be able to fight them in court, and we defeated them. We beat them back. And so we couldn't save Nicole's son, but we're trying to save somebody else's son. by being able to afford the medication that you need and live a life of prosperity that I believe all of us are entitled to.